But first, let's meet John and Jill Berelowitz. Good morning, both of you. Now, we are in this lovely rotunda in the centre of the garden, and this is eventually what's going to be here, and it's going to be slightly bigger. This is the model. How big is your mind's eye tree going to be?
My mind's eye tree is going to be enormous. It's going to be 4.5 metres high and 5.5 metres windblown. So it is absolutely enormous. It's going to weigh 3 tonnes. The armature of the tree actually, which is the skeleton inside the bronze, weighs a tonne already. So...
OK, that's one big old thing. Now, can you just explain very briefly? We have a sphere here and this blown-over tree. Just tell me what the significance of those items is.
Well, this shows the power and the force of Shakespeare. Shakespeare's chair will be sitting there, as you can see it over there, and the wind-blown tree will be leaning over the power of this sphere. So, just to show his genius and his sheer force of power.
Now, the two of you have had to make this at your foundry. I'm imagining, because of the scale of it, it's a really challenging project, even by some of the things that you usually do. Tell me honestly whether there has been tension over the mind's eye tree. Has it been a stressful project for you, John, or one that you've really thoroughly enjoyed?
It's been a challenge, because obviously trying to interpret a tree of this, or a sculpture of this size, which has no predetermined shape or form, we've had to work with small sections of wax, which we've had to cast and blend together. And
so what? That's the wax model of it, right?
We did mould a tree in Box Hill, not the complete tree, but sections, just so that we could get the beautiful texture of the hawthorn. Then made small sections of wax, which was then cast into bronze, which we then created the big tree. We've welded section by section by section.
But I understand that the tree itself has had rather a disastrous fate. What happened?
Well, the Hurricane Kate blew it upside down. It's out of the ground and it's landed on its head. Unfortunately.
So this historic tree that you've cast from doesn't exist. So in a sense, at least you've cast it in bronze as the mind's eye tree. It will live on.
Exactly.
As this kind of symbol, I suppose, of the power of Shakespeare's imagination. And as you say, his life force.
His life force, and this will live on for eternity.
And is it right that your grandchildren have even been involved? You've got the whole family involved in this project. What have you made them do?
That was a little bit of a
Putting
secret.
those poor children to work. What have you made them do, Jill?
I have made them write little notes to me and little drawings, and they are very precious, which I have actually photographed, and I've put them inside the bronze. So when they come with their children and their grandchildren in 60 years' time, the tree will still be there, and they'll say, well, I put something in my grandmother's tree. So it's very precious.
Well, it's not just a family project, let's be honest, although the grandchildren are involved. Fiona Oates found out that there have been a whole army of craftsmen making this mind's eye tree.
This ancient tree on Box Hill in Surrey in the south of England is the one that inspired the final design for Shakespeare's mind's eye tree, the new place, the site of William Shakespeare's home. Artist Jill Berelowitz has spent a lifetime designing and making trees, but this, she says, is her biggest and potentially the most daunting so far.
We searched and searched for months to find this tree, got permission to mould certain sections of it, and then I went from place to place and found loads of other branches. So I've been collecting for about a year.
Once the tree had been selected from searches all over the country by New Place designer and engineer Chris Wise, it was covered to make exact mouldings of the texture and shape of the bark. These were then taken back to the Morris Singer foundry, owned by Jill and her husband John, to start the process of being cast in bronze.
You actually make the mould first, then you take the mould and pour the wax into the mould. Then the wax gets covered in ceramic. And once you've got a ceramic shape, the wax actually gets dripped out.
After a wax mould comes a ceramic one, building up the layers with sand. The lost wax method involves numerous stages and is very exacting. Furnaces have to be 1200 degrees for the raw bronze to melt to the correct quality. Imperfections in it are skimmed off. If the molten bronze is too hot, you get bubbles in the mix. Too cold, and it will not be liquid enough to get the full detail of the bark surface. Once the bronze has been poured into the ceramic moulds, it then cools and solidifies, and the ceramic layer can be broken off.
The metalwork has to be polished and finished, and all the seam lines have to be taken away. Now I've taken the original leaf and we've scanned it, 3D printed it, then cast it into bronze. And they're then going to get polished up and they're going to twinkle on the top branches. We also have a very, very strong armature underneath this, which weighs about a ton. And this was instructed by Chris Wise, who's the engineer on the project, as it has to be completely secure. And that's how you get your final piece.
This tree is using the skills of around 20 craftsmen from the foundry, and so far the tree is about a year in the making.
The tree is Shakespeare's life force. It has huge power and obviously will endure forever, like Shakespeare's work has. The roots are lifting off from the ground and it's leaning over this huge cosmic sphere. It really shows the power that Shakespeare has had in all of our lives and continues to have.
Alongside the tree, the foundry is casting Shakespeare's chair and desk. And the 150 plus sonnets which will be laid in the paving on the New Place site. It's a real labour of love.
Well, the foundry's name goes back 150 years. They've produced work for some of the most famous artists in the world, Henry Moore, Barbara Hepworth, Philip Jackson. I know the people that work here and they amaze me every day with their ability to create beautiful work, to solve problems. And then artists come along and give us challenges all the time. And especially this tree. This tree's something like this, in my experience, has never been produced before.
I've been an artist since I was 12 years old and fought very hard because I came from a family of doctors, but I was so passionate about it and this is where I've come to. So it is one of the most exciting things of my life. I always created trees of life and I always dreamt of doing an enormous giant tree and it'll last for eternity, long after I've gone. This is really a dream come true.
Very lovely, poetic thing, that, the mind's eye tree.